leaving the bathroom door open because the fans of the bathroom. All right, I'm sticking with our theme here of being physically challenged because there's too much to say. There's more to say about it, and it is extremely, extremely important. And that is the whole point of this video. Is there is one thing, one factor that is the most important factor of any style of training that you are doing, okay? More important than movement selection, more important than loading and rep schemes, and anything else, okay? And this is an element that reaches across any type of training method, any modality. No matter what you are doing to train, you could be a runner, you could be a powerlifter, Olympic weightlifter, gymnast, CrossFit, High Rocks, right? Whatever it is you're doing, training for sport, okay? This is, if you do this right, if you nail this thing, your training will be effective, okay? That thing, that X factor, that thing you should be seeking pretty much above any of those things, any other thing, and that you should be seeking in whatever you are doing is how close are you getting to true failure? Okay? That is it. That is the marker of being physically challenged. Are you to the point where you either could not do another rep, you could not go faster, you could not put one more pound on the bar, okay, or you actually fail? You actually do not succeed at the task. You couldn't stand the weight up, right? You couldn't press the weight out. You couldn't hold the pace. You couldn't do the work in that amount of time, right? You couldn't do the set unbroken. You fell off of the bar, right? You could not get your chin to the bar, whatever it is. That fact alone, being familiar with that line and going there often, okay? That's it. That is, the more you do that, I'm going to be careful with how I say that. You need to be doing that. You need to be acquainted with that line. Now, here's my qualifications. Just like I mentioned in the technique versus intensity, the point is not that 90% of your reps are completely out of control and do that, right? No, I've already established that. That's not what I'm saying. But I would say I generally see a lot more of the person number one in that scenario that I spelled out, where people are trying so hard to do things perfectly that they stop so far short of actual failure, okay? And while I said this is something that can be found in any training method, in any discipline, there are certain ones that lend themselves better to reaching this state than others, okay? There's certain ways to write workouts that lend themselves to this better than others. And that's one of the things that I think is so dare I say, magical about the CrossFit training methodology. It is truly built to elicit this response. Again, all of the qualifications. There's ways to do this extremely stupidly, but doing this wisely and intelligently is, the way that you are going to ultimately get the most results. Now, sometimes, you step over the line. Sometimes it looks like tearing a muscle in your leg. Okay, maybe by the end of this, not the end of this video, but in this series, maybe I will end up kind of deep diving on my own experience with some of this stuff about how, you get off the couch, you risk orthopedic calamity, and it's worth it. Okay, and sometimes stepping over the line, it happens, and sometimes those costs are greater than others. Sometimes it's literally just like, hey, couldn't hold the pace, right? Or, hey, didn't stand the bar up, it fell down, right? Sure. But that gets us into some other categories that we're not going to talk about here. But I did want to tell one little story. So it's easy to understand this concept with weights and reps and sets, and you do another rep, you can't do another rep, like that makes sense going to complete failure, right? You cannot complete the standard of movement for the next rep. Okay, very simple. But as I mentioned in the intensity video, intensity is relative to both physical and psychological tolerances. And I remember early on when I was working out in Pastor Justin's garage, I remember the feeling of fear. I remember thinking, if I keep doing what I'm doing, something bad is going to happen. And the first step towards working to failure is getting to that scary place where your body is giving you survival instincts, survival signals and messages to your brain. Going to that place and coming out unharmed. Okay, not necessarily unharmed as in you're not going to experience discomfort, because there's lots of discomfort involved in this process, especially as we're seeking true failure. There's going to be lots of discomfort, but alive. Okay, you come out the other side, and you live to die another day, and that's an unlock, right? That allows you to now go into that same place again with a little less fear and go a little bit further, right? Venture a little bit deeper into that feeling, into that dark place. That's what a lot of people call it. And slowly but surely, you find out that, hey, I can do this. I'm not going to, nothing traumatically awful is going to happen. And I'm going to be able to, at some point, the workout's going to end and I can flop down on the floor and catch my breath and whatever, right? And just becoming more comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think that is a process that is darn near endless, because as that becomes easy, I shouldn't say easy, as it becomes more familiar with simpler movements, let's say it's running or being on the assault bike or whatever, you might find certain movements as like, hey, I know that I can continue doing one more burpee even when I'm at 180 heart rate or whatever it is, right? Then it's like, hey, can you deadlift 135 pounds while your heart rate's at 180? Can you hit a clean when your heart rate's at 180? Can you hit a snatch while your heart rate's at 180? Can you hit 10 snatches while your heart rate's at 180, right? We can continue to kind of push the envelope and again, just become more and more comfortable with testing and finding out where actual failure is at. Because if we don't ever hit that line, we won't actually have good, accurate data of where that is and what it feels like. We want to be familiar with that. So I'll end it there. The most important thing, no matter what kind of training you're doing, is get as close to failure as you possibly can. And sometimes you do need to step over that line and find out exactly where it is.